These are all broken Aiwa personal stereos. That's the proper name for them, not Walkmans. I think Aiwa referred to these as personal stereos back in time. These models, although they're all slightly different, this one here for instance being a PX310, this one being a PX510, and this one here being a HSP05 Mark II. They're all very similar inside. They should, I think, have the same kind of components on the circuit boards. So this one here has already been disassembled by myself to see what's going on. So I've taken all the screws out and I had to desolder here. This is a solenoid on the other side. So this is a funny little thing. I've seen this on the other one as well. So this is just like an extra kind of odds job wire cutting across. So I'll leave a couple of things connected because I don't really want to go messing about with that cable there or the motor. So this is what you're kind of left with. And what we can see is there's quite a few capacitors, these SMDs, that have basically gone bad. They've leaked. They've leaked on the circuit board. You can see here it's a bit messy under there. And I don't know if there's going to be maybe track damage caused. So what I'm going to do, yeah, that doesn't look good there, does it? Above that one there. It looks like it might have gone all the way along actually underneath this one. As an experiment, nothing more at the moment, I'm just going to take these off and have a look underneath. So I'm going to take some pictures beforehand so I know exactly what I'm doing. Presentation of the new ones, so I've got some new ones to go on, and I won't bother putting the new ones on if I think the board's gone too far, if the board is not salvageable. So that's my method of approach, I think, going forward. So we've got some small ones here to kind of get in place when the time comes. I think that's going to be interesting. Some of these bigger ones have got a little bit more room. Probably take this off, this volume control, so that I can unscrew that, just pop that off to give myself a little bit more room to get in there to do the soldering and the cleaning. I'm going to try using 2 soldering irons at once to apply heat and then just try to lift them off the boards. That's my approach, I think. Now this is my first failed attempt on this particular Aiwa. I managed to get the big ones off fairly okay. Just a bit of leftover metal to kind of take off there, so they were okay. This end of the board not so good, so I was trying to use a couple of soldering irons and then that just wasn't working for me. I couldn't get the leverage, so I used some pliers like this to kind of hold one end and then try to use a soldering iron on a couple of these. So that doesn't work very well because it tends to at least start to lift up the tracks. As you can see, I've buggered up the tracks there. Now what did seem to work maybe more than kind of 70% of the time, I guess, was twisting them. So I've got some pliers here and I just had a go at twisting a few of them at the end just to see how it would work on another board, and that wasn't too bad, but you can see the leakage is pretty terrible, and I expect the next one that I'm going to look at is going to be similar because it's the same model. Anyway, let's give another one a go, I think. Well, the belt on this one seems to have lasted a little bit better, not disintegrated, but it will need changing. It is got more slack, and this board looks slightly better than the other one. There's still evidence of leakage on the board, but I would say that it's looking possibly less dirty at this end. But anyway, that's speculation, isn't it? The twisting seems to be going a lot better than trying to desolder them with them in place. They're all off, so let's inspect for track damage. I can do that once I start cleaning the board up. So it's looking a lot cleaner. I can't see any potential issues. So I'm hoping now I've cleaned it I can remove these last bits from the old capacitors. So what I need to do is use some flux and a bit of heat. I'll steadily increase the heat until I can get them taken off without causing any further damage. All looking not too bad, I think. So as far as I can tell, all the bits of metal have been removed, and I just need to add a little bit of solder to these pads ready for the new capacitors. Unfortunately I had to scrap the second Aiwa. That was because the capacitors that I had to replace, the 100 UF, so 100 microfarads, there was supposed to be 2-volt ones to replace, but I only had 4-volt, and they were just a little bit too big, and I got into a bit of a pickle on the second one. So I've found some standard capacitors, these, which are 16 volts. These are 100 UF as well, so they look quite small. The profile of those are quite small. So I'm hoping if this one here, if this, what model are we dealing with here? If the 310 has those, then I'm just going to use these because it'll be easier to fit them in and to solder them as well. So that's my plan. So there seems to be a lot more screws to take this one apart than the other one. And already I've noticed we've got some normal capacitors there, not SMD, so these go straight through. So they're probably okay. It might be worth me leaving those on there, as long as they don't look like they've leaked. And obviously look at this end to see if this is the end where there's an issue. This one is more of a plastic affair, needed a lot more screws. I've still got the metal one, the back of the metal one, that has gone to scrap. So looking at the board, I think we can say that it's not looking too bad. There's a reasonable amount of room down here. I can see obviously the ones that look a bit leaky, so I'll take a picture. I found a couple of issues with the one that I'm trying to repair in the mechanics actually. The solenoid seems to be broken on one side on the other machine, and also the latch isn't kind of working. So I'm able to basically give power to the other machine, and I can actually play a cassette and hear it coming through. So I think the capacitors that I've soldered on are okay. It's just maybe now the mechanics is not quite right. So what I've decided to do is the second one that that's no good to me, the board, I'm basically desoldering here, and I'm going to disconnect, which I've already done, the motor. I'm going to take this board off and put the board that I've repaired on, and see if I get any more success that way. This was my temporary solution with the capacitors. So I couldn't solder anything smaller in here very easily. I've actually got some SMD capacitors, and I decided in the end for regular ones because it was easier to bridge a pad that I'd broken by accident. So yeah, so one of the pads I kind of had to repair, so that's why that one's at a bit of a nasty angle. But what I decided to do was, as part of the testing, was just to have that placed elsewhere, and yeah, the sound came through fine and it was playing okay. It's just the mechanism just seems to be a bit off, and in the meantime I've just ordered some very small kind of square surface mount ones, and I'm going to put this one in. This is 100 UF 4 volts, and I've already tested it and it will squeeze into this gap. So that's my plan, is to remove this temporary kind of fix, drop this one in, put everything else back together, and see where I am. You have to realise as well that I started this project some time ago and have everything to hand, so it's really been a case of making mistakes and finding my way forward as I've kind of moved on. So that's why I've got obviously different components in here of different sizes, but no, it all seems to have enough room there now, so that's good. I'm going to solder a couple more wires back on, and also put the ribbon cable back on.